Guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in and coming back and watching. I really appreciate it, and I do hope you're having a super awesome day. I'm talking about street photography in this video, and specifically I'm delving into the trying to figure out how to define this genre of photography. I did a video a long time ago, like 8 months ago or something, about fine art photography. You can check it out at that link. And that video was about, what is fine art photography and am I a fine art photographer? This video is, what is street photography and am I a street photographer? Because I'm starting to wonder about that. I've done a number of vlogs over the last few months, and you can see some of those there, and just looking through my channel, where I'm in a, either like I did one in San Francisco, I've done a couple here in Austin, where I'm wandering the streets, and I've got my camera, and I'm out shooting kind of what I consider street scenes or cityscapes, some of which include people, and that starts to me, blur the lines in terms of, is it street photography or is it cityscape photography? And, for years I've traveled to cities, and it's kind of become my thing. I love to go to different cities, walk around, take photos, and to me, I've been a cityscape photographer, but I'm also beginning to wonder if I'm a street photographer in some ways, or at least some of the time. So I would love for you to enter this conversation by leaving comments about how you define street photography and what it means to you. For me, what I've always thought of is, if you're basing it, especially if you base it on the kind of the historical context of street photography, some of the famous people like Friedlander, Robert Frank, Henri Cartier-Bresson, a lot of these are monochrome, of course. They show what I like to think of as proof of humanity, but really what that means often is it's a reasonably close photo of a human doing something in an urban environment, what many would call a candid photograph. I don't really do a lot of that. A lot of my photographs in cities that include people are often shot from behind them, showing them doing whatever it is they're doing. And I'm going to show you some example photos. But I've also done a whole lot of what I've always called cityscapes, which to me are like the big, grand, here's a photo of a city, and to me they're devoid of people. So I'm trying to figure out, I think I'm definitely a street photographer some of the time, and I'm also a cityscape photographer some of the time. So let me walk through a couple of photos and sort of illustrate that difference. Here's the first one, a night scene from the lovely city of Glasgow, Scotland. And I wanted to shoot this scene in nice light without people in it. So to me, that's a cityscape, or what many call an urban landscape photo. To me, a landscape photo is designed primarily to be beautiful, and there's no trace of humanity, right? It's purely nature at its finest. That's to me a beautiful landscape photo, and the point of it is to be beautiful. Conversely, an urban landscape photo, I think, it's not devoid of humanity or any traces of humanity, because it's a cityscape like this, obviously built by humans. Clearly, humans habitate in this area and live here. But the point of it is kind of to be beautiful. I'm out trying to make a beautiful photo of a city. Here's another example, if I can get my mouse to work. There we go. Paris, early morning, right? The other one was kind of late at night. And again, devoid of people, but clearly, proof of humanity, because these are buildings, right? Clearly built by man. And so to me, that's kind of been my thing in the past, where I've traveled for years and years, and I've always tried to get up early, or, if I'm out late, get scenes devoid of human, of some beautiful landmark or whatever. And while I haven't given that up, I'm doing less of it now. I still love it, and will do, continue to do it some, but I'm getting more into what I consider traditional street photography or urban photography. And to contrast that with these urban landscapes to me are kind of designed to be beautiful. I'm looking to make a pretty picture. Doesn't mean you have to think my photos are beautiful. But that's, to me, kind of the point. I'm trying to make something that I consider beautiful, whereas with street photography, I feel like you're trying to make something that's interesting. And I saw, and I can't remember somebody's blog, I read that, and they kind of classified it that way, and I thought that was perfect. Urban landscapes are designed to be these big, beautiful photos. Street photography is designed to be interesting. So let me talk about the definitions here. I went to Wikipedia and said, hey Wikipedia, what is street photography? This came up, also sometimes called candid photography. I'm totally agree with that. Conducted for art or inquiry, I think that makes sense. Features unmediated chance encounters and random incidents. I think my street photography does that. It's candid, it's unmediated chance encounters, it's random incidents. However, I'm not. It's not from the standpoint of coming to at people from the front, taking their portrait. I've done some of that, but I mostly do it from behind. So it doesn't say anything here about you have to have the face of the person included. So again, I think that's what makes this a little murky in terms of defining it. I like this one here. Street photographer can be seen as an extension of the flaneur, which is an observer of the streets. I'm very much an observer of the streets. I'm out taking what I consider observational photographs. A friend of mine years ago described himself as an observational photographer, and I think that's very much what I am. I'm wandering the streets. This is an observer of the streets. Flaneur, that definition is basically, as it says here, somebody who saunters or strolls, and that's very much me. I am strolling around a city taking photographs, and so I definitely think that's observational in nature, and it leads me to think of street photography. I went to get some examples of street photography, so I went to 500px and typed in street photography, as you can see here, and what came up is things like this, right? To me, that's urban landscape. These are urban landscapes. Now, there are streets involved. You can see streets there, this one, and these are beautiful photographs. But to me, the point of them is their beauty, and they're designed to be an urban landscape. That's not really a street photograph to me. That's a marina, beautiful photo, not really a street photograph. Most of these, to me, are designed to be beautiful and less about being street photographs. That one, I think, qualifies, the one with the cat. These are chance random encounters. Things like this, I mean, this is clearly a posed photo. It's a great photo, but there's more of this gentleman. He appears to be wandering maybe an alleyway in Japan or something. I don't know. That's kind of what I think of when I see that. Great photos. I like them very much. To me, it's posed, so it's not candid. It's not an unmediated chance encounter, therefore not a street photograph. These people walking in a jungle, that's not street at all to me. These kind of things, again, they look posed. I think they're street photographs from the standpoint of the subject matter and the environment, but they look very posed to me. So I don't feel like I found it on 500px. So next I went to Flickr, and it comes up my photos. I typed in street photography. These are photos of mine that I've tagged as street photographs, and I think they qualify. They're chance encounters. As you can see, a lot of them are people from behind. That guy, well, he's asleep. This person's, from the front. You can see that. That's kind of a street photograph kind of thing to me. But as I walk or scroll through a lot of these are more in line with what I consider classic street photography. And this is on Flickr, which I love. You can follow me on Flickr if you want. The link is down below. I post there all the time. I love Flickr. But black and white, which is not really something I do. If you look at mine, some of them are kind of desaturated, right? But I definitely use color, desaturated, but some color, basically black and white, that sort of thing. I'm kind of a street photographer, but I'm kind of not. So what else did I do? I went over to Google Images to type in street photography, and you can see what I came up with here. Lots of high contrast, black and white, the monochrome. Some may be grainy, some very much chance encounters on the street, and humanity at play, if you will. I definitely think those are street photographs. And so the next thing I did was, that's not it, is to open up some of my own photos and go into them. So again, let me show you these. Urban landscape, designed to be beautiful. Urban landscape, designed to be beautiful. This is where I start getting into street photographs. I took this in 2012 in Brussels, and it's an HDR. I would not edit the photo that way today. I still kind of like it, but there's a lot of things I don't like about it. But the point is, it is of a street. What is street photography? Does it include a street? It kind of should, I think, or at least an urban environment. And it's very much this at play. And I've shot these street scenes for years simply because I like them a lot. But I'm starting to realize that maybe I was doing some street photography even 7 years ago. Here's a guy out having a smoke. Here's a guy walking this way. Here's one from Paris from about 3 years ago. I was out at night shooting some of these street scenes, which is more of the urban landscape. But I saw these people sitting on a bench, and I had to walk over there and get behind them. I just liked the scene too much with the lamp and the neon and the restaurant and the bikes. But these two people, it kind of tells a little bit of a story, which to me is the street photography sort of thing. You're telling a little bit of a story, and you're leaving it to their imagination to figure out what that story is. But it includes humanity or proof of humanity. Versus the urban landscapes, which are designed just to be beautiful. This is more interesting. There's this lady sitting on a bench at night, and this guy's sitting on the bench as well. But as you notice, he's really far on the other end of the bench, so far, in fact, that he's not even all the way on the bench. So there's a little bit of a story there that I find interesting. Another shot from Paris at night, and it's people walking down a street, people enjoying a restaurant, some urban grit, which includes that graffiti on the side. I don't know, just these kind of scenes really appeal to me, but I'm starting to classify those as street photographs. Here's something I took in London about 2 years ago. I absolutely adore this photo. Not black and white, rather, some big color, but, limited focus just on the center, and this guy walking with his phone kind of alone through the wet streets of London at night. To me, that's very much a street photograph. Another one from London was down on Carnaby Street, and this guy's taking a picture of Carnaby Street, so I have a picture of him taking a picture of Carnaby Street. And I like that if you look in front of him, that group of people, even though they're going different directions, there's a separation of space, as though he's set apart from the environment. He's an observer, and I'm observing him. So I found that to be very much my style of street photography. Here in Austin, people at night, partygoers, like passing by a bar or whatever, very much, to me, my style of street photography. Early morning downtown in Austin, a couple walking away and crossing a street. To me, my style of street photography. This is basically a candid moment. Although, to be clear, I asked him to hold the pose for a minute. I was in here this barbershop and shooting. He said, "Yeah, shoot away." And then he went to comb his hair, so he starts doing that. And I was like, "Stop! I want to get a photo of you if you don't mind." He's like, "No, that's fine." So I had him stop. So it was a candid moment in that he was already doing that. I didn't set it up and say, "You know what would look cool?" But I did have him pause mid-brush, if you will, because I thought it was a cool photo. Not real high contrast, but kind of high contrast, black and white, a little grainy because I was indoors at a really high ISO. But I like the photo. To me, that's street photography. A recent shot from downtown Austin, just kind of a street scene, but it's illustrating, nightlife and that sort of thing. So that's kind of street photo to me. A lady in London walking on the streets, a guy in a bar sitting by himself. These kind of things are street photographs to me. This was in Glasgow probably 5-6 years ago. Just this lady sitting on the bench, just kind of observing the street. And again, I'm I'm taking photos of people from the side or the back. I'm not the kind of photographer that's going to get up close, partly out of fear, to be honest. It's awkward to me. I don't really have the courage to do that, just to be dead honest. And while I appreciate and love those kind of photos, I can't imagine if somebody does that to me, it would be off-putting. And I don't really want to do that to people. I like it. I like this kind of thing because it's a different kind of story that it tells. She's sitting alone, observing the street, maybe in deep thoughts about something that's going on in her life. I don't know. But I like those kind of photos. A homeless gentleman walking in an alley here in Austin. I find that really interesting. I think it tells a story. And if you can see, there's graffiti on the side of the wall that says Superman. And so it's like he's walking toward that, trying to maybe improve his life or something, or get out of the hard times that maybe he's been experiencing. A gentleman sort of asleep in the middle of the day in the streets. I think that's classic street photography. A recent San Francisco photo. There's people in it. This person on the bicycle who's not clear because they were moving fast, and I was kind of focused down the street anyway. But I like the look of it. It very much all about humanity and that sort of thing. So that's that. This photo is kind of weird, to be honest. I was downtown for an event, and these kids were kind of posed in the crosswalk right when Pet Sematary came out, the Stephen King movie that was remade this year, and I couldn't resist. I had to take that photo. And that reminds me, I shot this with a 50mm prime, and a lot of these vlogs that I'm doing with street photography, to me, I'm talking about using a prime lens. I've got a 50mm, I've got a 35mm, I've got a 28mm. I recently purchased a 24mm. I've got a couple of lens babies, one that's 35mm, one that's 28mm. So I've got a lot of prime lenses, and these are ideal, I think, for street photography. Small, light, inconspicuous, and generally you can shoot them pretty wide open, and therefore, even in lower light, get some nice, quick photos. So I feel like I'm sort of erring in that direction as well. But to me, kind of, you could call that posed because they were frozen and just standing there, but I did not pose them, but interesting. And here, kind of a classic street photograph. Again, me coming from behind a couple, I feel a little voyeuristic because they were hugging, and then I was like, that's kind of a cool photo, and then they started to kiss as I was taking the photo, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't really want to be prying into people's life, but then again, it's public display. They're doing it at a crosswalk, so I'm not really being voyeuristic, but to me, that's kind of classic street photography. In this photo, this is an example. This is not a street photograph, but this is an example of how I find myself changing and morphing over time, and that is, in the past, I was always about shooting kind of like those urban landscapes I shared at the beginning, big, beautiful scenes devoid of people, and if I couldn't get that, I'd often be kind of frustrated or even mad. I'm like, dang it, I want these people out of my shot. I mean, I've been that way a lot over the years. But even landscape, in this case a seascape, but a traditional natural environment, landscape, seascape, whatever, I actually like it better with people in it. I mean, I was shooting and you could see that lone figure way in the distance. And to me, I was like, that's not an intrusion. It kind of tells a little bit of a story. And I could see this couple coming, and I was like, I got to hurry up and get some more photos before these people get in my photo. But it's inevitable. I was standing still and they were walking pretty fast. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him into my photo and see how that looks. And this was 3 years ago, I think, maybe 2. Anyway, I let them. Well, I didn't let them. They walked into my frame, and I started taking photos with them in it. And to be honest, it's a better photo having these people in it, because if you just imagine them not being there, I mean, it's a beautiful scene with that lone guy, and that can be interesting. But I think it's more interesting seeing these people. They're walking into the frame. They got plenty of space to move. It's like they're walking into the storm. Maybe they're fearless. I don't know. It adds that human element to the photo that was missing, I think. And in my opinion, it anchors the photo and makes it more real, makes it more tangible, and to the viewer, I think, more relatable. As a viewer, you can imagine yourself walking into that photo. And these are the kinds of things I'm thinking about. So even though that's a landscape or seascape, that's the same idea I'm beginning to use in my cityscape photos, and that is, I'm not out trying to shoot a big, grand urban landscape that the entire point of is, let me capture a beautiful photo. And instead, I'm doing more my style of street photography, which is capturing people on the street or in the street doing things. But if you notice, I'm generally not capturing crowds of people like a lot of the well-known street photographers and street photographs have displayed over the years, which is, somebody glancing at you through a crowd of people, which are cool photos. I just haven't been doing that. I'm doing more of the one person or the two people kind of in an urban environment, kind of separated from a crowd or no crowd at all, and just having a person or two. That's more my style. I still consider it street photography. I would love for you to provide some comments and feedback about what you think about. It can be about my photographs, or more importantly, what you think about street photography in general, and share your thoughts about it. And that's it. I just wanted to talk about it, try to put some wrapper of an idea around street photography and the way I look at it. And am I a street photographer? I don't really know. I think sometimes I'm a street photographer. Sometimes I'm an urban landscape, doing the skylines, which are designed to be beautiful, or the big empty scenes, which are designed to be beautiful. But I feel like I'm doing a lot of urban work, cityscapes, etc., that are more street photography, and they're designed to be interesting or to tell a story. And there's nothing wrong with either one. They're both awesome, and I love it, and we'll continue doing both. I just wanted to talk about it, get your feedback, and that was really it, my friends. So let me know what you think about street photography. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Take care, and adios.